This is my video on talent identification biases. As touched as a previous topic, relative age effects makes talent identification programs less reliable. This links into the biases because quite often the best performers at that time at a young age are selected rather than the most talented players. It'll be touched on a bit more later in the video, but a player might have lots of talent at a young age but not be able to cut it physically, and so he gets overlooked, and unfortunately there's quite a lot of dropouts and rejections due to this matter. An example of biases is Lionel Messi. As you can see here, he's got 4 Ballon d'Ors for being the best footballer in the world. As a young child, he was rejected due to being too small, but an alternative happened as some faith was put into him. Even though he was small, they could see the talent, and he's proved a good decision as he's come out as the best player potentially to have ever lived. Another example of talent biases was a rejection of Jamie Vardy, who when he was younger was rejected by Sheffield Wednesday. However, he continued to work hard at the lower levels of football and nearly dropped out at one point, until his hard work eventually paid off, where he broke into the Premier League, into the England team, and he's also one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League, and he's just lifted the Premier League trophy with Leicester. So it shows that you can work hard if you get overlooked and rejected, but the biases prove that it's not always right, and you should be looking at talent over other factors. Within the talent identification process, there are several elements that are looked at when trying to select potential superstars. These are the physical, physiological, and technical talent predictors, and other things like height, weight, and endurance, as well as strength and sprint speed. These are all looked at when trying to find a footballer, for example. There is a fault in the identification process. This is alongside the biases line, because relatively older players are advanced in certain areas such as the physical side, and they have better aerobic and anaerobic endurance, and so their strengths could outweigh their talent, making them selected. However, people getting overlooked could become, like we said before, the future Messi. Another look into biological factors show that precocious players, on average, are taller and heavier. They have longer legs, which makes them better for sprinting and maybe long distance running. They have reduced body fat percentage, and they perform better in all the physical tests. However, the studies show from this reference that they have minor or even no advantages in football-specific skills. This is so important when trying to identify the talent. The biases can often see a lot of players rejected, and the percentages of players that actually make it is very small, and they could be higher if there's more work done to spot the talent. Just a quick summary of the Goldmine test, which is basically looking at people that have been rejected. It says that the football player Ronaldo was rejected his $1 bus fee to training by a football club. Paul McCartney's musical career was overlooked, and the college coaches consistently rejected Asafa Powell, who's broke Olympic sprinting records before. The Goldmine effect also looks at performance over potential, because if the performance isn't quite there but the potential is, it might be worth the gamble and to take the risk. A talent identification program is the NFL Scouting Combine Camp, which assesses 300 players on physical, and also the Wonderlic, which is a quick decision test, which is based on working things out. There might be maths questions, for example, which works on decision making, which could help them in a game. But this isn't always accurate, because you could do bad in the test but be a better football player, for example. A quote I like from this is, "What you see is not necessarily what you get." They look at training camps as well for like Jamaican sprinters, for example, and it looks at hard work over comfort. So they don't have the best facilities, yet they produce the best people for running, for example. Another player that had potential but wasn't putting in the performances was Gareth Bale, who he kept losing with the team he was playing for before moving on, and people had faith in him, and before you know it, he excelled, and he became one of the best players in the world and the most expensive transfer fee in football.